You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back.
Hello and welcome back into my wheelhouse. June 25th. So getting ahead
Almost
of myself.
July.
Getting ahead of myself. We're almost there. 25th. NBA draft has concluded. We're a couple days away. I think July 2nd is the first day of the summer leagues of Utah and Sacramento.
Moving right along.
That's right. No Mike here today, but Sloan's with us. We're gonna.
Mike, feel better.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out Mike. But it should be good. So we got a couple small things. Jokic is rumored to sign his 5-year max extension. Maybe we'll get to talking about other free agents when we get there.
Well deserved.
Well, absolutely. The summer leagues were not in any of the early ones. We were in the Utah League last year. That's when we got to see our first look at Tatum versus Donovan Mitchell in terms of that rookie clash that continued throughout the entire year. This year, we're going to be included in the Las Vegas Summer League, which is the first year ever where every single team is participating all in the league together, and that starts on the 6th. So we're just 7 days, a week away from the initial tournaments. I think it's like Miami, the Lakers, Warriors, Kings, and then Jazz, Atlanta, Memphis, and Spurs. So you have an interesting mix of some more veteran teams along with teams that just improved a lot based off the draft. So it's exciting to look forward to. We're in another one of those week and a half, 2-week hiatuses. This is technically like really the only dead time of NBA season. It's the time after the finals before the draft, and then after the draft before summer league.
It's a lull, but I feel like the NBA does lulls the best
out
of the 4 major sports.
They're able to channel the information that they got flowing in, but I don't have anything. I don't have a chump or anything. I asked Mike for a chump. I don't know. I guess he's saving it. Who knows? But we can get to the wheel whenever you're ready. We got some interesting stuff to talk about.
A whole lot of stuff. Oh,
throw the wheel over.
Almost knocked
All right,
over.
so draft day trades. NBA draft happened on Thursday. It was not super nuclear or exciting. There were trades, but it was probably less trading than expected. People were saying that there could be 4 or 5 trades in the first round. We ended up only getting 2 in the lottery. Where the 2 biggest ones were, of course, the Trae Young and Luka Doncic swap between Dallas and Atlanta. Dallas landing Luka Doncic in the deal, trading away the rights to Trae Young and their own pick next year that is top 10 protected, I believe. So it's a perfectly fine trade for them to be able to move up. I do think that they won the deal in terms of Dallas versus what Atlanta got, because I think it's commonly understood that Doncic is a superior player to Atlanta. So basically Atlanta chose Trae Young over Doncic. But it will be interesting to see who they get next year, but it's probably not going to be that great of a player, knowing that it's a weaker draft. For some perspective, already in the mock drafts moving forward for next year, there's people up there that are a little bit of a question mark that would be in the top 5. But in that range, around 10, Jonte Porter, who was in this year's mock drafts, around like 15 to 20 range and ended up dropping out and going back to school. He's projected around like 9 and 10 right now, just to give you a kind of a parameter of what type of player might be there. So obviously not the same caliber level of draft as it is this year. So I think it's a clear winner, even though I don't disagree with the trade for the Hawks. Well, what do you think about that deal first?
I think they both sort of won that move. I think it was a good move for both teams. I think Atlanta can admit to itself that they're still building.
Right.
And I think they're recognizing the culture of this league. They need to have shooters. And, Trae Young, he has a pretty high upside. Mm-hmm. He has a pretty high ceiling. He's a great shooter. And they also said, we love the way he passes. And let's face it, he's a pretty marketable player.
Yes, very marketable.
So
he's from Atlanta.
They had 2 other picks in the first 30.
They had 19 and 30.
They had 19 and 30. So
yeah.
2 other picks in the first 30, which they also used to select shooters as well.
Yep.
I applaud both teams for just trying to improve, not just now, but down the line. Obviously, we've been talking about Doncic forever.
Right.
And, with Dirk getting a little older, it's good that they're recognizing, that they need a future franchise player too. And cut from the same mold, international player, knows how to play team ball. Doncic admitted when he was interviewed, I know I have to play better defense. I know I have to improve in that angle of the game. So I think they both won.
I think they both won as
it's
well.
a win-win.
I think that what I liked about this draft in comparison to some other drafts is there was a lot less like just clear struggling from GMs to make like a successful move. I thought more organizations came in with a goal and came closer to achieving that goal. And we'll speak more on like if we ever talk about the worst drafts in terms of what teams maybe fell a little short. But for the most part, I think every team came in with a hope and a goal, and I think they achieved that. And I think these two teams are a perfect description of that. Specifically, you spoke on the two shooters that Atlanta got to pair with Trae Young. I think that really trends in the direction that they're hoping to move forward. Travis Schlenk, their new GM, is a disciple of the Golden State Warriors when they were before they had their first championship, and in drafting Steph Curry and drafting Klay Thompson and developing those guys. This is obviously a very B-grade Warriors situation, but if Trae Young and Kevin Huerter, the player from, I believe, Maryland, that they got at 19, if those two can pair as lights-out shooting backcourt, maybe that'll like lead in that direction. And then additionally, I think that
they're
Doncic
still going to be bad.
right, obviously, yeah. And then the guy they got, the Villanova big Omar Spellman, who's a shooting stretch big. It was a little early in terms of where he was projected in mocks, but that's okay. It's all about team fit around that area. What I see.
Wildcats had a pretty good representation.
They
going
did.
in
They got a lot of
draft.
drafts. There are a lot of drafted players, but I think that the Mavericks did win the trade. Like if you're giving both teams a grade, like I think you give the Hawks like a B, and then you give the Mavs probably an A because they got the better player. They have the higher ceiling. They're more likely to be able to compete for a playoff position next year, with Doncic maybe being their best player immediately. And I think he fits in very well with the players that they have now. He's going to be able to push Harrison Barnes out of that. He clearly cannot handle the number one scoring initiator role. So he's going to work much better as an off-ball, like a supersized J.R. Smith who can create his own offense. He's never been a passer, but someone who, if the defensive pressure is focused elsewhere, he can be very effective for your team. I love Doncic's fit in terms of how he'll be able to develop under the tutelage of Dirk Nowitzki. I think that he pairs very well for a young and springy and a player who's shown some prowess, not impressive so far, but shown prowess nonetheless, in Dennis Smith with his shooting and his athleticism. I'm just imagining the backdoor cuts from Dennis Smith, alley-oops from Doncic. I think it's going to be a fantastic fit.
That.
I think that he's a future all-star, and I think that he's going to help them push for playoff contention this year.
Especially with Rick Carlisle's offense. I mean, it's a lot of the time it's kind of like, more like a casual, almost like a free-for-all, like anybody can bring the ball up court.
Yeah.
A lot like Brad Stevens.
He likes the 2-point guard lineups.
Implements.
We saw them, again, going in with a goal of drafting winners. They drafted the other player from Villanova, the point guard. His name is escaping me at the second, I got it. Brunson. Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson.
Yeah. So Jalen Brunson.
There's too many Villanova players.
He'll be a good backup point guard for them, and he'll be able to contribute to winning basketball immediately. They picked two probably of the most winningest players in this entire draft, and that's clearly aligned with their goal. Just to move over to close out on the other trade in the lottery, there was a couple more. The more significant of the two is probably the Phoenix and the Philadelphia swap, where Phoenix, after drafting DeAndre Ayton number 1, got the 10th overall pick from Philadelphia, in which they selected Mikal Bridges.
Another winner.
Another Villanova player. And then in the flip side, Philadelphia traded back to 16, where they selected Zaire Smith out of Texas Tech. I like this. I think this is another win-win trade for both teams. I do think that because of the additional pick that Phoenix gave up to Philadelphia, which is a 2021 unprotected Miami Heat pick, that's the year that is being presumed is likely to have high school players in it, as well as additional players from the freshman class. So that's basically going to be a double draft. So that's going to be stacked. So like that pick really flips the trade in favor of Philadelphia. But I think that in terms of what both teams are looking for, it's really interesting to think about. But based off their recent success and not success from Phoenix, I think that Phoenix is in a greater need of putting a stronger effort out on the floor immediately than Philadelphia is. Philadelphia is going to make the playoffs no matter who they draft in this draft.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But Phoenix needs to draft a win-now player to help them be relevant, to help them gain some type of excitement and help boost their TV ratings, help sell some tickets in terms of their team being a more bona fide product on the floor. Phoenix can make a swing while at the same time bringing in another pick that they can add to their arsenal with the hope of, as Brett Brown put it, star chasing, because this pick is very valuable, probably moves up in the ranks of their assets in terms of Fultz, who they were shopping on draft night to move up into the top 5. It didn't end up happening, probably because another deal happened in the top 5 already.
And probably because they're not going to get full value for him
Exactly.
season.
Although he's had some crazy dribbling videos out on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen those, but I like the trade for both teams. I think that based off of the pick, I think that I would grade out Philly's side of the deal higher than Phoenix's, but I still think that Phoenix did very strong getting a player that's going to fit in perfectly in their lineup with Booker and Josh Jackson. That's going to be a very interesting big ball lineup when they have no point guard. And then they landed a potential future point guard at the first pick in the second round with Elie Kobo from France, who we were thinking that could have been a higher pick in the
I can't believe he
round.
slipped. I can't believe the Spurs didn't get him, but the Spurs got a pretty intelligent player themselves. But I'll say that I'll give Phoenix maybe a little bit of a higher grade on that trade. But then again, I
feel like you like McHale more than the average, though.
I do like McHale.
Right.
I like McHale. I liked both Bridges. But yeah, McHale Bridges, he's a two-time champion.
Right.
And he just rounds out that starting 5. You talked about their issues with point guard. I mean, they still do have Elfrid Payton, so now they got the Payton to Ayton.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they let him go. He's a restricted free agent.
Very possible.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't let him get any money. they didn't want to pay him.
It's so funny how many people are trying to shop point guards, and people are just not even picking up the phone.
Right, everyone has them.
People are trying to in Atlanta. They're trying to get rid of Schroeder.
Schroeder, yeah, no one wants him.
And it's a $15 million a year contract.
No one wants him.
3 years, $45 million.
Especially when you can go in the second round.
He's got a goofy haircut.
3 of the first 4 picks in the second round were point guards that all look to be able to be contributing either right now or very soon with a Kobo. Javon Carter from West Virginia looks like he could be a great fit for Memphis. That seems like a good pick. Point guards aren't as valuable in terms on the trade market. But you said you like both Bridges. The final trade in the lottery was a swap between the Charlotte Hornets and the LA Clippers from 11 and 12. The Clippers moved up a spot by paying up, I think it was like 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
And then the Clippers got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from Kentucky, and in exchange, the Charlotte Hornets got Miles Bridges. Again, I think another win-win deal.
Yeah,
I think both teams made sense with what they were gaining, although I don't think it would have been a bad pick if the picks had flopped and the players ended up on the teams that they actually selected, because I think that both of those teams needed that role of either player filled. I think that both players will be good on their respective teams. I like that it seems like this might be the best pick Charlotte's made in a really long time. If you think about back to Malik Monk hasn't panned out yet, but I still hold out for him because I'm a big fan of his. But thinking back past that, I mean, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Frank Kaminsky, their draft slots have always really failed, even though they've been selecting in the 7 to 11 range perennially for the past several years.
Probably one of the poorest.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's commonly known that Michael Jordan's pretty weak at evaluating talent. So I like that they brought him in there. I think he's going to be able to fit in very well with what they have in Kemba and be able to work off of him offensively well. And hopefully he can improve as a defender. He wasn't that poor, but I'm excited for him. I think this trade is honestly a wash. I don't have a winner for this deal. I
agree with you.
It's a wash.
And it was kind of a boring trade, too. I mean, you'd expect something in the top 15, like a trade to be, but we already had a couple of trades. And
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And there were more
trades. It's funny because
trades.
I picked Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to get drafted by Charlotte. And I was like, got it. And then they just traded away.
That's because it made sense. Like we said, I mean, maybe that's why it's not as exciting as a trade, because it's not like any team really shot off the page like, ooh, they got their guy. It was just kind of like you could have had either one.
He had a pretty cool suit on though.
He had one of the best
like
dressed.
the floral.
Ooh, how bad was Trae Young's
silver
shorts? He looked like a UPS delivery man.
I don't know
terrible.
the whole shorts with the suit thing. I
don't like his
guess
look.
we could blame that on LeBron.
He's got a weird voice too. I don't know about Trae Young.
Doncic had a pretty boring suit on.
Yeah, but that's typical. I feel like the Europeans are really more reserved with their outfits.
Not as snazzy.
Yeah, not as boisterous.
I felt bad for Bridges' mom.
That is
Mikal
sad.
Bridges' mom.
Yeah.
She works in the Philadelphia 76ers organization.
From Philadelphia,
She's
obviously.
I get to see my son every day, and then he's being interviewed about going to the
wearing
Sixers,
the Phillies hat,
and then they break the news. Sorry, you just got traded.
I feel like that is something they need to be able to amend. I understand that just because it's policy. So once Doncic gets picked at third, the Atlanta Hawks are the team that had the third pick, even though everyone knows they get traded Doncic is wearing a Hawks hat. Like they should be able to fix that. I don't know why it's still a thing, but who knows? There's other trades that happened, but nothing else really mattered. It was just basically those three, so we can get to the wheel.
All right.
The Boston Celtics. So I wanted to just maybe combine talking about Robert Williams with our season looking forward. As I touched on before we got to the wheel, the Summer League's coming up. It's already been stated, obviously, that Tatum and Jalen and other established players now, as established stars, aren't going to be participating. So now moving forward, we're probably going to be putting out a lineup that has Jabari Bird and Ojale and just recently info, my phone popping up, that we just signed Brad Wanamaker from a Euro League. I don't know who that is, but he's a guard, so I wouldn't be surprised if he got heavy minutes in the Summer League.
Wanamaker 3 or 2 in the next shoot-around.
He's got an interesting name, but he'll be in there, Yabu, and I think that the most significant player out of those in terms of what we're getting from a sample size is going to be Robert Williams.
Of course.
Robert Williams projected a fringe lottery pick, probably more in the 14 to 17 than necessarily 10 to 14 range coming into the draft. But in 2017, the draft, he was projected to be a high lottery pick. He had quotes about going back to school, about how he wanted to improve his game and contend for the number 1 overall pick. Obviously, that didn't happen for reasons due to his mentality, maybe his work ethic, and potentially injury history. Those are the reasons that are cited in him dropping all the way down to 27 with the Celtics' first and only draft pick in the first round. So when the Celtics were talking about it, they were saying, hey, like once he dropped past like 17 and 18, that's when we started calling up and trying to talk to teams, and we're realizing quickly like, hey, he might just drop to us. Other teams have their eyes set on other players, and I found it remarkable thinking about the players that went ahead of him, even with his potential injury risks. I think that when that label comes out, it scares people, but more often than not, that's every player would have an injury risk if that team didn't get that medical. Most players have had injuries in the past. It's very, very unlikely that a player is completely clean of any injury. Robert Williams had a small knee injury that kept him out. I think it was like 4 or 5 games. I forget whether it was his rookie season or freshman year or sophomore year, but he had a selection of teams because he fired his agent, and he hired a new one. So he didn't give medical to every team from, I think it was like the Bucks all the way to like Indiana or the Lakers. He didn't give medical to any of those teams. So they don't have a lot of intel, so they don't know how serious his potential injury history was, so they're less likely to draft that player. But just looking across the teams that get picked outside the lottery, like we're thinking the players that Robert Williams should have got picked over regardless of what his situation. A Troy Brown at 15 to Washington. I think Kevin Huerter, but that's okay. I understand how they're aligning. Okogie to Minnesota. Grayson Allen. Chandler Hutchinson, I understand he had a draft promise, but still. Anthony Simons to Portland. The big one was where I thought he was going to go was to the Lakers, where they picked Mo Wagner. Where I thought that was a huge mistake. They picked a big that was hopefully stretched the floor, who's probably going to overlap with Brook Lopez if they're bringing him back, which was really weird. And then another shocker, the pick right after them, right before us, was Philadelphia, really letting a load off on us and picking Landry Shamet from Wichita State. I'm shocked that he dropped this far. Robert Williams is explosive. He's a nuclear athlete. People project him and have been talking to him in the same ilk as DeAndre Jordan and Clint Capella. He's a shot-blocking big. He averaged close to like 4 blocks if you're doing per 36 minutes. He averaged something like 20 and 15. He's a great rebounder with per 36 minutes. He looks like he's going to fill a role that otherwise in the Brad Stevens era, we've had 0 players fill this ilk. He's a terrible free throw shooter, so that he aligns properly with that DeAndre Jordan comparison. But I think he's a perfect player to come off the bench to ease some tension and stress off of the injured players that are coming back in Tice and the aging Al Horford. So I think he's going to fit in very well. I think that he's basically what you know when you hear motivation and morale or whatever it is, those question marks. The best way to solve those is getting that player into a system that has strong structure.
Get him in front of Brad.
Get him in Brad Stevens or the Spurs or the Warriors. Any one of those situations, that's going to be his most likely chance to succeed. I'm very excied about Robert Williams. I think he's going to be great. What have you seen from him?
And winning cures all evils. It does too. If you want to be a part of a winning culture, then that's all we need to really know about your attitude. I think he's an intimidator on both sides of the floor. I think he's got a great motor. Like you said, he gobbles up rebounds. He's great at anticipating where the shot's going and just knocking the shot up. 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC, right?
Yep.
I just really like the pick. I can't believe it slipped that far. I mean, I had my fingers crossed once they got to the Phillies 76ers pick. Yeah. And I'm like, this is a no-brainer. I don't think any Celtics fan thought that they were not going to get Robert Williams.
I was nervous.
I saw on some boards people were like anybody knew who Robert Williams was. I was like
everyone knows.
I knew who Robert Williams was. I thought he was going to go in. We were contemplating him for the Clippers in our mock draft,
which was a reasonable pick for them.
In the low teens.
If you think about who the Clippers picked with Jerome Robinson from Boston College, I think I'm picking Robert Williams to be a better professional player than Jerome Robinson. I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
And as the Starters podcast said, Jerome Robinson has a very old face and an old name. That's not a marketable guy.
Yeah, but I mean, I was keeping my fingers crossed and began talking about Robert Williams dropping once we got past Lonnie Walker at 18. I was saying, I wonder when Robert Williams is going to come off the board, and he fell all the way to us.
But I think he does look like a young DeAndre Jordan. I think he is going to produce in a vital role sooner rather than later for this team. I get so frustrated when we don't bang the boards, when we're constantly shooting jump shots and nobody's down there battling. And Horford's just going to get older. Right. So I mean, he's not going to give us a very good chance to get second chance opportunities if he's getting 6 rebounds a game,
right,
or if he's trying to beat the other players to the defense on the other side.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think that
he's got a boring name, but he's not a boring player.
I
just hope he shows up. His first press conference or his first conference call with the Celtics, he overslept.
Yeah, well,
that's not a good chance.
That's a bad start, but that's okay.
Maybe he just celebrated, a little too much bubbly the previous night.
Buffalo Wild Wings, drive yourself crazy.
Absolutely.
I'm really excited for him.
I'd be celebrating too.
When we're thinking about our Celtics team's biggest deficiencies moving forward, it has been physicality down low, to be able to protect the rim. We're a great defensive team, but the one area we're lacking defensively is rim protection. Rebounding has obviously painstakingly been overstated.
Who's the last shot blocker the Celtics had?
Can't
even remember.
Yeah, we don't have shot blockers, so so he's going to fit in great in terms of the necessary role to be filled for this team to be able to take a step to the next level. I think that whether he gets to his ceiling will be all dependent on him and his development, but he absolutely has all-star ceiling. I don't know if he's going to get there, but he has that ceiling.
What number is he going to pick?
44.
Oh, you already know.
Yeah, right. Scal talked
George Gervin.
Scal talked to him, said it was okay.
George Gervin's number.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm very excited. Any other things to think about the Celtics? Marcus Smart already came out and was saying that he was excited about it. We don't even know if we're going to have Marcus Smart on our team, but think about Marcus Smart and Robert Williams on the pick and roll.
Oh, yeah.
Think about how frequently does Marcus Smart try to throw up lobs that are perfectly placed for Al Horford, but because Al Horford isn't explosive enough, they don't finish. I mean, Al Horford finishes them a lot, but how many
Smart
more
is a good veteran leader for him
Robert
too,
Williams.
Because he's got attitude too. Like, hey,
Robert Williams, he has an edge.
Yeah,
we need more of those guys.
Smart will maybe be able to curb that attitude and use it to his advantage. But I don't think there are that many people who will be able to get across to
something that's
to
interesting
a player like that.
About Robert Williams and potential mentors for him on the Celtics. Marcus Morris is an interesting player that I think that he's really been had high acclaim when younger players, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, talk about his role in the team in terms of off the court on how he affects their mindset and the way that they look at the game and what they can expect in the years moving forward. They said that Marcus Morris rubbed it off on them in the best possible way. And
he's come a long way. He used to be a real punk.
Huge malcontent.
Real punk.
Right. So for him to have that effect on young players and for him to have the background that he has, background that is properly aligning with Robert Williams, even if I think he is slightly a fake tough guy, he's still a tough guy. I think for him to be able to rub off on him, if he's still here, I'm not sure if we're bringing him back, but if he's still here, I think that's another good, strong influence for Robert Williams to have. I think that he is in the best situation for him to succeed. I think he's going to. I think that he's going to start games this year, depending on the matchup with Al. And I think that he's going to play around 20 minutes a game this year, and I think he's going to be great. I think he's already better than Tice coming in. I think he's already a better player than Tice, and hopefully he gets the wherewithal with being able to be familiar with the offense and to be dependable on defense. I saw him switch defender. He can handle a switch. He can handle a point guard on a switch, just similar to Capella. That's why he gets those comparisons. So I think he's going to be good enough to get minutes on the floor, and hopefully he excites and plays hard when he's on those minutes and stays on the floor for a long period of time.
I wonder if Baines leaves now.
I wonder that too. It'll be interesting.
I hope not,
I like
but I
Baines,
hope he
but
doesn't expect to have some
I like Baines, but
huge
Robert
role.
Williams makes me okay with losing Baines.
Yeah.
Like I think that Robert Williams is better than Baines. So like I'm okay.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. It's great.
It was a great pick, though. I mean,
phenomenal.
I think that and the Michael Porter Jr. slipping to 14 are the two biggest slip surprises.
Slips, yeah.
That I saw.
You could say Lonnie Walker slipping too. You can spin the wheel.
Oh,
but,
yeah, for sure.
Like in terms of like grading, I think I only gave out like 4 A's, and one was the Celtics getting.
That's always good.
Yeah. So we already talked about that. Yeah, free agency's coming up. That starts on July 1st. There's going to be lots of team movement. I already stated in the beginning of the show that Jokic is likely to sign his max extension in the coming days, coming hours. That takes one player off the board of those restricted, that robust restricted
Happy
free
for
agent
him,
market.
one of the show's favorite players.
I wanted to connect the draft to free agency in terms of how it's going to affect the Celtics. So tying in every topic we've talked to together so far,
Yeah.
Marcus Smart, in terms of being fearful that he might leave for greener pastures or just greener substances
Well,
in
if he
general.
wants 15 a year, I won't be fearful.
Well-
I'll say, see ya.
Well, that's the point. Is I think based off of what we know with teams that have cap space, we're thinking about Phoenix and Indiana was a team that was going to have some cap space. The Bulls, the Pacers, the Hawks, and the Kings, and those were basically the only teams that had cap space. And some of those were more likely than not to be a player that would be a team that would be likely to offer Marcus Smart. I mean, we heard a lot of rumors about the Pacers being linked to him, but if you look at the Pacers draft, the Pacers drafted Aaron Holiday and another guard, and that two players that fit very well with Victor Oladipo moving forward, and they let go of, instead of refusing to bring back Collison, they let go of Lance Stevenson. So it looks like in free agency, their target is going to be more centered on the forward slot rather than the guard slot. So I think that wipes off the Pacers. If you look at other,
If they do get a guard, they might get Schroeder.
that's very true. That's very true. If you look at the drafts that other teams had, the Dallas and the Hawks both had new point guards and new guard slots come in and get filled. The Hawks don't have a defensive guard, but they're probably going to be more likely to use their money to bring in future assets and take on bad contracts. So I don't think they're going to sign him. I think the only team that we need to be nervous about is the Phoenix Suns. I'm very curious about what they're going to do. They have exactly $14 million in space. So even if they offer their full cap room, I still am not too nervous about the Celtics maybe matching it. We could match it anyway, regardless of what's
That's
happening.
true.
But I'm thinking that the Phoenix Suns are probably likely the only team to offer Marcus Smart a contract, because when I look at the Bulls, that team has already a slate of defensive guards, and they're hoping to be able to expand a role for Zach LaVine coming back off of injury. And when you look at the Kings, the reason that they didn't draft Doncic, whether it's ineptitude or just them being overly confident in De'Aaron Fox, is them saying they didn't want to take the ball out of De'Aaron Fox's hands. They have some other ball handlers in terms of Bogdanovich and Buddy Hield, so I don't think he's going there. So I really think the only team that he could potentially go to is Phoenix. I'm really hoping that a player that is commonly forgotten that he even exists, Brandon Knight, a former like fringe all-star almost.
How old is he now?
Yeah, not that old, like 25, 26.
Wow.
He's not that old. Gets his ankles broken and
Seems like he's
dunked on
been-
the most in the league.
Seems like he's been around forever.
He has been on for a very long
Getting
time, but
abused
he's
forever.
perennially injured, and he's been perennially put on the shelf for the Phoenix Suns. So I'm really hoping when the summer league and the season starts, the Phoenix Suns see something that they really like in a Kobo and overvalue their returning player in Brandon Knight, and hopefully spend money, if they spend money, because I'm not sure if they will, spend money elsewhere rather than on a player like Marcus Smart, because I think that Marcus Smart would fit in well there in terms of a shooting combination
good leader.
with Booker. Yep, a
He'd be
good
their
edgy player.
He'd be their oldest starting five.
He would like make them a like definite strong defensive team. If you're matching Josh Jackson, their new incoming Mikal Bridges with Marcus Smart, that's a strong defensive team. So I see how he aligns with them. So I'm a little nervous, but I think that's the only place he can go. I think that he's more likely than not to take a lesser deal to stay with the Celtics, or just extend his qualifying offer and enter free agency again next year. You have any thoughts on the Marcus Smart situation?
Yeah, I agree with that being a worry about the Suns, especially considering that it was rumored that they were possibly eyeing Clint Capella in free agency, and now with DeAndre Ayton, they don't really need Capella. They just need a floor leader. And Marcus Smart has proven that he is a great leader. Even when he's on the bench, he's shouting at people to get in the right spots.
Right.
He's going to make a great coach one day. He's
so.
going to be a complete lunatic coach, but he's going to be a real great leader. I hope that he stays. I hope that he doesn't cost the Celtics more than 10 to 12 million.
I'm thinking that he's going to be back around 3 years, $31 million is my prediction.
I think you could live with that.
Yeah,
I think that would be totally fine. I think Ainge would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, especially since that would give us a player on our roster that is in a midsection between the max contracts that we have and the rookie deals that we have that is the more tradable asset that we're probably going to be looking to trade at some point. Hopefully Marcus can stay on longer than just half a season, but moving forward, having that contract adds value.
Jay King interviewed him at he had like
some big camp or
a
something.
Camp for kids and stuff.
He was very goofy at the camp, lots of funny things.
Yeah, it looked like he was having fun, and he was swatting the kids, and kids don't care if you get swatted by an NBA player, you're still playing with an NBA player.
Right.
But Jay King interviewed him, and it sounded like he was very in favor of returning to the Celtics.
Right.
And the further you get towards free agency, the more you're hearing positive news from the player. It's good news. I think he's had meetings with Ainge already. I think they've sat down, and I think they have a good understanding.
I do.
I think he knows he's not going to get ripped off by the Celtics,
right, exactly.
But the Celtics also, realistically and responsibly, can't overpay him.
Right, exactly.
Because they're trying to win a championship.
Free agency-wise, maybe some bigger fish, obviously, bigger names. It seems as though LeBron has narrowed down his search to just LA and Cleveland.
Vegas seems to think LA is a lock.
Yeah, Vegas seems to think LA is a lock.
I don't gamble.
I still think that there's a chance, depending on the pitch and depending on the players surrounding him, that he could go to Houston in a one-year deal. But I think that's probably still on the fringes of likelihood. It seems more and more. The more I see it, I think he's going to go to LA, and I don't think anyone else is going to go with him. The more I'm looking at it, another player in free agency, Paul George, the more we're hearing about Paul George, the more likely it seems that he's going to return to OKC on a one-year deal. So it's really interesting to think about today.
And Carmelo's returning to OKC too.
$28 million. He's really excited about that, rubbing it in everyone's faces.
Highest paid scrub.
Paul George's pitch, his pitch from LA was leaked. And it's like, it was very boring, and it wasn't like a dramatic leak, but it was from the Lakers, and it was just saying you grew up in Palmdale and you had a dream of playing the Lakers, and we had a dream of building a team that could fit a player like you. I don't know, it was pretty lame. If I was Paul George, I wouldn't be swayed by that, but we'll see what happens with them too. I think that the more I look forward, the more I'm seeing that it seems that LeBron just might end up being on the Lakers with I would think that they would try to do a trade. I think that no other free agent's going to go there, but I think that we should continue to look forward and see that if Lonzo Ball gets swapped for in a deal with a package that includes McCollum or Lillard or some other situation, maybe Kemba gets flipped with some young assets from the Lakers. I think that they're going to make a deal. I don't know who it's going to include, but I think that LeBron is going to be the only big free agent that goes into Los Angeles.
What about DeRozan?
You hate
DeRozan.
LeBron would not like playing with DeRozan. DeRozan's a terrible fit with LeBron.
That's true. But they want to hold on to him anyway.
What
about Dwight Howard?
Yeah, sign him for free.
Bring him back to the Lakers.
You can sign him for so little money.
Dwight Howard actually plays now. He's not he's not a clown anymore.
He was good on Charlotte last year.
They said when he was with the Hawks, they said he was Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Teammate of the Year.
Right.
Player of the Year.
Yeah, he got voted. Yeah, but it was interesting because in Charlotte it was a flip side, and the teammates didn't like him there. But
he's done with his act.
I think his act still prevails in some instances, and I think depending on who you are and what your personality is, you can definitely get rubbed the wrong way by Dwight Howard, and for good reason. The guy's a very unnecessary goofball in a lot of situations.
He would be serviceable for the Lakers right now.
He would be serviceable,
especially with LeBron.
He would be a good fit off the bench for $2 million to $8 million, somewhere in that
House
range.
Money.
That's a good signing for them. I think that would make sense. But I think that he's more likely that he goes there. He probably gets paired with one of the Portland guards, maybe another guard from another situation. I know that the Bucks were still thinking about trading Bledsoe. So maybe Bledsoe could end up in LA with LeBron, even though that's not that great of a fit.
I don't like Bledsoe.
They've had a common interest before. So we'll see what happens there. Other big free agents, I don't really see anything really being that interesting, that pulling. I think the restricted deals In terms of Jabari Parker, Aaron Gordon, Julius Randle, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those players ended up staying in their same location, specifically Julius Randle, once they realize that they're probably going to be striking out in a lot of their big fish. I wouldn't be surprised if Julius Randle came back on like maybe a 1 or 2 year deal at a high monetary amount.
It's like the elite free agents are so elite that the second tier is just so boring to talk about.
Right,
it's like,
exactly.
It's like a drop-off.
I think that back to the Pacers and me saying that their draft makes me seem that they're going to be willing to spend their money on the forward slot is that's somewhere where I could see them making an enticing offer to an Aaron Gordon or to a Jabari Parker there, and maybe that's where we see those players get pulled away. But we'll have to see. It starts in 6 days or something like that.
It's wild.
LeBron, on average, takes 9.5 days to make his decision in free agency. We'll see how he compares.
I think
it's gonna be quicker.
The first one, the decision was what, July 14th?
It was something like that.
The second one
was a little bit
July 8th.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get right around the 4th.
I'll take the first. I want the first as soon as possible, as many decisions as possible.
I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron tried to one-up the 4th of July.
Yeah, that's true.
He would be a perfect candidate to do that.
That's true. All right, let's do some trivia. Right. Just me. Let's see if I can beat myself.
Just you.
That's right.
All right. Well, you'll kind of be a winner in one way or another.
Well, I hope so. That would be pretty embarrassing if I lost.
All right. So we're talking about teams who have been in the lottery and teams that have been bad for a while. Name the big 3 longest playoff droughts in the NBA.
Does this year count? Because the Minnesota Timberwolves were formerly one of them.
Yeah, Minnesota no longer counts because they made it this year. Yeah. And so did Philly.
Right.
So Minnesota and Philly
Charlotte?
don't count. Charlotte, no.
Sacramento.
Sacramento is number 1 on the list. Their last appearance was the 2006 playoffs, in which they made it to the first round.
2006?
Yeah.
So that was the furthest one back? Phoenix?
Phoenix Suns is number 2. They made it in 2010, and they made it to the Western Finals.
They made it in 2010. Who was on their team in 2010? Was that their guard team?
Yeah, it was
the 3 guards?
Steve Nash's last hurrah, right?
I thought he was gone before
Wild,
that.
Huh?
Let's see.
Starts to get a little tough after this.
I'm trying to think of the other lottery teams. Orlando.
Orlando Magic is number 3. Boom. 1, 2, 3. Well, Orlando stunk for a while after Dwight Howard took off on them. They made it in 2012. Yeah. And again, they were bumped in the first round. So that was, you definitely beat yourself on that one.
Yeah, good job.
All right. The big 3 all-time leaders in steals.
All-time leader in steals. John Stockton.
Boom.
Michael Jordan.
Oh, this is too easy for you. Yeah, Stockton had 3,265, the only one to eclipse 3,000 steals.
Yeah.
Jordan was number 3. He had 2,514. One person in between those two.
Magic.
Nope.
Mark Jackson.
Technically, you already won because you got 2 out of 3. But
that's true. All right, I give up.
The third one was Jason Kidd. He's number 2 on the all-time list, 2,684.
That's a lot of steals.
Yeah, I can't believe he has that many steals. That's wild. The last 3. The last 3 international top picks in the NBA draft.
So not necessarily top 1, but like top 3. Like what do you?
Top 1.
Top 1.
We'll just do top 1.
Number 1 overall draft picks that are.
It's wild how many there are. It's wild. I should have done just. I should have done the last 3 in the U.S. because there's so many international players.
Yeah, Karl Towns is from Dominican Republic.
Karl Towns.
Anthony Bennett is from Canada.
Yep.
You got Bogut is from Australia. Bargnani's from Italy. There's probably players in between.
2014, the Cavaliers.
2014, Wiggins is from Canada
Wiggins
as well.
From Canada.
Is Bennett not from Canada? Maybe Bennett's not from Canada.
Bennett was from Canada.
But that's how crazy is that they pick back-to-back number 1 overall picks.
There are more in the past 5 drafts. There's more internationals than U.S.
Huh, how about that?
Yeah, Ben Simmons, technically Australia.
Ayton's from Bahamas,
DeAndre
right?
Ayton, Bahamas.
Right.
Yeah, he had the Bahamas flag on the
jacket.
inside of his suit.
I like when players do that. Put stuff inside their jacket.
That's pretty
and have a
cool.
more subtle
But he
thing on the
seemed to be
outside.
like kind of a little shy about showing it off. He was like, yeah, you can check it out. Did you see his watch?
Yeah, it's very expensive.
My God, bling bling. But yeah, there was only 4 U.S. players since 2010.
They were trending.
That's wild.
Were trending internationally.
But yeah, good run on the big three.
I agree.
I think if Uncle Mike was here, you would have smoked him.
Well, we won't tell him that. You can pick one. The NBA Awards show is tonight.
Oh, wow.
Finally, took forever.
Jeez.
I hate this, like the worst layout.
Lord.
The league regular season, I think it's 79 days.
It's summer.
I think it's 79 days. That's how long ago it was that the league ended. You should have the awards announced periodically through the playoffs like a normal sport. What is wrong with you? I know you're trying to make money. Do the show in the playoffs if you want to. Why do you have to wait this long?
I think holding this awards show in the summer just sort of exemplifies how stupid it is that the awards don't cover the playoffs.
And additionally, how discredited is this award show going to be that one of the 3 MVP candidates isn't going to... LeBron's not going. LeBron's not going to go to this show. He's not going to go there. Anyway, okay, let's just talk about the main 6, the finalists.
And Dwayne Casey got fired.
You're very right. I mean, he got hired again, though.
He's probably going to win.
He's
going to win Coach of the Year for the Raptors,
No,
and he
not.
was fired by the Raptors.
No, he's not. All right. We're going to make our picks of the top 6 things. They do stuff like the best pass and the best dunk. And stuff. Yeah, but they
that's kind of cool because they let the fans vote.
Right, yeah. I like those. I like that aspect of the show.
But still, you could have done it 2 weeks ago.
But for the main aspect, the main 6 awards, MVP, I think we're both picking Harden. We don't think anything crazy is going to happen,
yes.
right?
We're not stupid.
We're not stupid. I agree. Okay.
Although you see the playoffs, and I was talking on CBS Sports Radio. They put me on the other day, and I was like, after seeing the playoffs, don't we all agree that if we could vote again after the playoffs, we would vote for LeBron James?
Well, that's why I think there should be a playoffs MVP. It shouldn't be Finals MVP. It should be playoffs MVP. I think that's what they should do.
They should do both.
Well, yeah, maybe 3 awards is too much, but whatever. It's going to be interesting. Apology accepted. There's going to be a lot of clashback online, specifically Twitter, after James Harden wins the award because of the short-sightedness about how superior LeBron James was in the playoffs. People are going to be freaking out. Oh, LeBron didn't win the playoffs. Look what he did. Didn't win MVP. But whatever, it's fine. Everyone knows that LeBron's the best player in the league. It's a regular season award that's awarded to players for most frequently offensive success, and James Harden was a nuclear success this year. He absolutely deserves the award. He's had years and seasons past where he's been on the fringe, and if he won, he would have been a deserving winner now. But because of his,
it would be pretty boring if we just gave it to LeBron every year. I recognize that. There's a reason why Steve Nash won it over Shaq a couple times.
All right, so 6th man of the year. The 3 finalists are Van Fleet, Lou Williams, and Eric Gordon.
To me, if Lou Williams is eligible for this award, he wins the award.
I'm also picking Lou Williams for the exact same thought process.
Cool
He's
with
in there
that.
for a reason because he had...
How many games did he start? He probably started about 40 games this year.
Well, yeah, but often through injury. But I mean, if he's nominated, he averaged like 22 points a game. He had a 50-point game. Yeah, like he's a lunatic scorer. That's something that I mean, maybe we'll talk about it if we get to the worst drafts, but that's something that I didn't like about their draft, is it seemed like Jerome Robinson is just like a worse version of Lou Williams. Why are they drafting guards whatever?
They have a lot of guards.
Most improved player is Capella Dinwiddie Oladipo. I think this is another one we're probably going to agree on.
It's easy. Victor Oladipo.
Okay, we're locking stock so far.
And we're both probably 100%
Rookie of the year. Are you picking Mitchell, Simmons, or Tatum?
Good Lord, Donovan Mitchell made quite a case for himself, but it's very hard to not give it to Simmons. This is one where I wish it could be a co-Rookie of the Year because these players are both.
You never know. Maybe the voting worked out that way. You can't pick 2, but you can pick 1. So the same amount of people.
It's not impossible, but it's highly improbable.
Highly improbable. I think it's probably gonna be Ben Simmons. I picked Ben Simmons as well. Defensive Player of the Year. I think that they kind of let us on to know which one it is by putting Gobert and Anthony Davis on the All-Defensive First Team. Although in the years past, there has been winners that make it who are on the second team, which is laughable. But the finalists are Embiid, Gobert, Anthony Davis.
I'll go Gobert.
I think it's probably going to Gobert as
well. He was pretty close to it last year. Just happy it's not Draymond Green for a change.
What's interesting is I know that there's a difference in the number of games played versus what you need for the award. But last year, we saw Embiid unable to win the Rookie of the Year award because he only played 31 games. Gobert played more. He played 50. But I think that maybe if he doesn't win, I understand why. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Maybe him getting first team is the recognition of him being maybe the best defensive player of the year. But maybe because he only played 50 games, maybe Embiid will get the award. Regardless, I'm voting for Gobert because I think he's going to get it.
Davis and Embiid are going to win their fair share of Defensive Player of the Years.
Okay, and the final one, which is going to decide it because we've agreed on every single thing. So,
boring.
For who wins the awards show picking, I'm going to pick Brad Stevens over Quinn Snyder and Dwayne Casey, and you're picking Dwayne Casey. We already have a bet. We already knew we were doing that.
We already have a bet.
So
yeah, I mean,
that goes in. I think
the
that
votes were in before the playoffs began, before he was fired.
Yes.
So I'm not saying, before people crucify me, I'm not saying that I think Stevens doesn't deserve it, or that I think
you are.
Casey did.
That's what you're saying. You're saying you think Dwayne Casey did a better job coaching this year than Brad Stevens, which is crazy town.
No, I'm not saying that.
What do you mean? That's what the coach of the year is. What are you talking about?
No, I know who's going to win.
No, you don't.
If it was up to me, Stevens would win it.
Why do you know he's going to win? Because he won the coaches poll.
Because they had the best record in the East, and not enough media members were paying attention to the Celtics.
I think Brad got a ton of media slack.
We'll see.
I don't know. We'll find out tonight. It's at 9. How lame is that? I don't have time to stay up for that. I'm going to miss the second half of the awards.
Yeah,
hopefully they don't leave it to last.
I'll be seeing my eyelids.
Actually, hopefully they leave MVP to last, like it's Best Picture or something, so we don't even have to see that. All right, we want to talk about worst drafts, best drafts, dynasty draft.
I would say best
drafts
first.
All right. My 3 best drafts, with consolation going to the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, who I thought did a good job just because they came in with a mission. And then I like 2 second-round teams who did really well with players falling to them and players that they traded for. These aren't my picks for the top 3, but players that should deserve contention are the Houston Rockets because they got DeAnthony Melton at 46, the USC guard, who's going to fit in fantastic as he's a 3-and-D guard, and I think he fits perfectly with them. All the GMs were freaking out that he dropped to 46. People had him projected in the top 20. Remarkable that he fell that far. And then Detroit, for them to get 2 players that similarly had high reputation, more so on the defensive end, and Kyrie Thomas from Creighton, and then Bruce Brown from Miami. Those 2 guys, they traded for one, getting him at 38 and 42. I think that's another strong draft, hopefully to fill in as an Avery Bradley replacement. Maybe one of them could outskirt Reggie Jackson on that team. I think both of them fit well, make that team more defensively tenable. But my top 3 best drafts are San Antonio at 3. I think Lonnie Walker is going to be an all-star in this league. I think every player that if the San Antonio Spurs draft a player that is highly regarded, has high athleticism, has good defensive tools, and has shown stints offensively, they're going to mold that player into everything that they need to be. When that player is coming in, his weaknesses are inconsistency, and his weaknesses are motor, or his weaknesses are certain decision-making in split moments. You know that they're going to weed out all of those inconsistencies, and they're going to make a complete player out of him. I think that he's a 2022 All-Star. I think he's going to get in there. I think he is on a similar trajectory, but further up, and a player in terms of how his development will flip in terms of their pick 2 years ago, or last year with DeJounte Murray. We saw him fall, a player that was projected to be a lottery pick. He fell to 20-something. This similar thing happened. They had an earlier pick. I was eyeing that pick thinking, wow, they're going to get a player. Whatever player they pick there, you need to look out for, and they sure got a home run swing. Here's another player that Logan drafted to the Clippers in our mock draft.
Yep.
I think that for him to be a top 14 player was not blasphemous at all, and for him to fall there, I think that's absolutely an A draft for them. They got another player too, but I forget whether he's relevant or not. I don't even know who it is.
Then he's probably not relevant.
A guy from USA. His name's like Chismetu or something like that. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. What do you think about Lonnie?
Lonnie's a great pick. Yeah, he's slipped. I think a few people slipped.
Yeah, because he's got crazy hair. He had the funniest draft night photo.
I do like cool hair.
Did you see his draft night photo?
No.
He's shaking whatchamacallit's hand, Adam Silver's hand. They're both smiling. And his hair, I mean, I know you've seen it. It's straight up. It's like a perch. It's like he's a avant-garde Slim Jim almost. So but he wears his hat. So instead of like pushing it down, like it was pretty interesting. I forget what player it was in the top 4. Oh, it was Sexton. Sexton has a huge head of hair.
Yeah.
He fit all of his hair onto his hat, and I was like, how did he fit his hair into that hat? He didn't even bother pushing it down. He just perched it on top, and the hat was like sitting like 8 inches off his brow bone. It was hilarious.
That's
looking.
funny. And it just sat there.
Yeah, it just sat there. But my top 2 drafts, I spoke on both of them already. I think are the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks, getting the 2 best players in the draft, and then in Phoenix' case, surrounding them with other perfect talent to fit their team moving forward. Dallas getting
to be able to say
yeah.
you got Jackson, Bridges, Booker, and Ayton.
That's a great core.
I mean, that's a
great
solid core.
For a team that has shown such ineptitude to make smart decisions, for them to get out of this rebuild with those 4 players is so promising. And I think that Phoenix fans should be elated. And I think that moving forward, they're going to have one of these players is going to pan out to be really, really good. And I think the rest of the players are going to be very commendable surrounding talent. I think it probably is DeAndre Ayton that's going to come out of the pack, and he'll be that all-star caliber player. And I think that we're going to get recognition for Devin Booker being one of the most underrated players in the league perennially. And depending on what they do, we'll see how Okobo does. A perfect pick in the second round for this team again. We'll see how Okobo does, if he can slot in. He has a reputation as a scoring guard with some defensive acumen. He's not as big as D'Angelo Russell, but he shows a lot of similarities in terms of his shiftiness and his ability to score from the perimeter. So I really like him. And then back to Dallas, I think Luka Doncic is the best player in this draft. I think he's a superstar in the making. They're saying that they were building around Dennis Smith after last year, not knowing whether or not they were going to be able to get Luka Doncic. Everyone in Dallas media is losing their mind about how excited they are. He has a perfect fit. We've already discussed perfect fit in terms of coach alignment, in terms of his ability to play with the players that they have. Hopefully they can pawn off some other players like Wesley Matthews, maybe even Harrison Barnes, and get another rim-running big, or sign a player like a DeAndre Jordan, a Clint Capella, a DeMarcus Cousins, a Julius Randle. Some of those guys, watch out for Dallas, because they're going to be targeting all 4 of those guys and probably even some more. Even if it's a lesser player on the scale, a Montrezl Harrell, a rim-running big, they wish. Like if if Dallas had a pick later in the draft, they would pick Robert Williams. Like they want a player like Robert Williams to fit with Luka Doncic. That's the one piece that they have that's keeping them from being in playoff contention. And I think if they get one of those 4 guys, those top free agents, I think they're a surefire playoff team that could be a top 5 seed with Luka Doncic as their best player.
I agree. I only had a few A's. Yeah. I gave a few A's out.
Who were your A's?
It was a couple that you mentioned, the Suns, the Mavericks, and then I also gave A's to the Hawks because I like and I understand what they did.
I gave a B.
Going shooting. I gave them an A-, and then I gave the Nuggets an A-
So you like the Nuggets. Basically just...
let's think about what we were talking about, Michael Porter Jr. He's 6'10", got an NBA body. Mm-hmm. He can do a lot of things well. We thought maybe he was a number 1 pick a year and a half ago.
Coming into it, yeah.
A little bit of injury concern, but you know what? 14, you got a solid,
so worth it. It's
potential
so worth it.
future All-Star at 14, and they needed a good wing scorer. I don't think any of us really thought Paul Millsap was going to slip, as far as he did skills-wise.
Right.
I really don't think he was an impact player for them, and that's unfortunate. It's a disappointment.
I think it made so much sense, and it was just like kind of a no-brainer when he dropped past the Clippers. And I think we can blend it together with the worst drafts, because I think that the Clippers deserve some recognition there, and Shea saved them from having the worst draft in the league, because he saved them because he's a great player. But them picking Jerome Robinson over taking a swing at Michael Porter Jr. is such a crime. And I'm not that high on Michael Porter, but that potential that we talk about with him at the Hoop Summit and at Adidas Nations and about all these tournaments after high school concluded, before we went to Missouri, where he was the best player on the court, that included players like Bamba and Ayton and sometimes Bagley, depending on what the circuit was. He was the best player. He was the superior scorer. He's a 6'10" shooter that's coming off screens and hitting shots from 20 feet out. He is a highlight level dunker. I mean, I'm watching his games in high school and I'm thinking this guy has a play style like Vince Carter. Like he's not a big man and he doesn't bang down low, so he gets a reputation as kind of a softie, but he plays like a swing and he's 6'10". So he's a very, very interesting player. I think that the Denver is going to be a great place for him to be slow with your recovery, take 2 months, come back in December, come back in January, and ease into it. You don't have a lot of riding on your shoulders. This team is a playoff team with or without you. You have the ability to take this team to the next level. This Denver team is a team I was thinking about being a top 4 or 5 seed in the playoffs before the year started. They didn't end up making it. They lost on the last day of the season. But even without him, with a fully healthy team, with Paul Millsap back, I understand that his skills are slipping. But this team, they just secured their superstar for the future.
Team's got good bones.
This team has perfect bones, and they have a slot for Michael Porter Jr., a slot that's currently filled with a hodgepodge of Wilson Chandler and Will Barton and Darrell Arthur and Honcho Hernan Gomez and just random players. They haven't had a player to fill that 3 slot, and his role, although it isn't as defensively successful as they would like, is going to be great for them. I think they had a good draft. I gave him a B because of how much of a question mark he is. It is nerve-wracking.
But he's not the only one they got,
His back is nerve-wracking. Yeah, I like Vanderbilt.
They also got Vanderbilt, who's
defender.
a blue-chip guy out of Kentucky.
Yep.
You know, one of those one-and-dones that's going to need a couple of years of progression. But
he's a big body.
He's surrounded by good leaders. Especially at the power forward spot, which is where he's going to spend most of his time.
I think he could come in and be just as good as Kenneth Faried immediately.
And then
especially
they,
if they're trying to get
UCA's Thomas Welch, who's a
I hate that guy.
7-foot,
I hate that guy. I think he's
255
terrible.
guy.
He's so slow. He's going to be a G League perennial player.
What do you? I mean,
he's terrible. He's 50. He's the 58th pick. He's the 50th pick. He's irrelevant.
Can't go wrong there.
He's irrelevant.
Can't go wrong there.
I think. Okay.
Let's talk about worst
drafts.
picks.
Worst drafts. I think that Washington, absolute worst draft. Washington
was
terrible. If you think about the players that were available, they could have had Robert Williams. They could have had Dante DiVincenzo. They could have had Lonnie Walker. They could have had so many players. Basically, every single player that got picked after Washington, all the way down to maybe, I don't even know, like Jacob Evans, I think I would rather have than Troy Brown. Not that I despise Troy Brown, but I just think that Troy Brown's fit in terms of a slow player that's quirky and his skills are unsure on how they're going to mesh into a scheme when they already have a budding Otto Porter and Kelly Oubre to fill the role that his minutes would need to be able to develop. I think they completely failed to align themselves with a goal. I spoke earlier on how a lot of teams came in with a proper mission on what their team needs were and how to properly align that with best player available and how successful this draft was top to bottom. Washington is the one deviation, I think, overall. And for them to pick a point guard, random foreign point guard at 44 and not even taking a swing at someone with some higher upside when a player like Canada Bates Diop was still on the board, a lot of other players that still had a higher reputation at that point, D'Anthony Melton was still on the board. I think that they failed with both of their picks to take the correct pick when several were available, more than the one that they selected.
I think Memphis had the worst draft.
I don't like Jaren Jackson.
I'm not that into Jaren Jackson. Of all the, I would have liked Mo Bamba over Jaren Jackson.
Yeah. Why didn't they pick Doncic? They could have picked Doncic. I mean, not Doncic, not Trae Young. They could have picked Trae Young.
No, yeah, Doncic got drafted right before.
But like, it's just silly. Like every pick after them, I think they should have picked instead of Jaren Jackson. I don't like Jaren
Memphis,
Jackson.
I'm unimpressed with the Jaren Jackson. And then
they got Javon Carter in the second round.
Javon Carter,
he'll fit in.
He's the best perimeter defender probably in this draft.
Potentially.
But they had trouble scoring points.
Yeah, they couldn't
during long stretches of this NBA season.
Jaren Jackson isn't going to help with that.
Nobody's saving them in this. And then I wasn't impressed with really either New York franchise.
Okay.
I think.
Well, Brooklyn had like the 30th pick or something like that.
I think the Knicks fans, and I heard from a couple of different podcasts of people that were there covering the draft, the Knicks fans were very let down that they didn't get Michael Porter Jr. Having a chance to get him, and then everybody, like, you know, once he slipped, once they saw the Cavaliers didn't pick him, they're like shouting his name, they're chanting, and then they announced Kevin Knox, and then they're like, I'm
not as low. I gave them a B- in the draft because I think Kevin
Knox is a good player.
He's a scorer, and he's going to help. And he could, given the full reins, and just say, hey, we have no pressure at all. We're not trying to win games at all. We prefer to lose games. Kristaps is out until 2019. Try to score 20 a game. And they just give him the ball and hope that his upside as one of the youngest players, he's the third youngest player in the entire draft, hope that it works out. I think it's a good swing. It's a home run swing. But I understand why people were freaking out about Michael Porter. I think them selecting Knox made just as much sense because I think for what development time they'll have without Porzingis, he can maximize that. And then in the second round, getting Mitchell Robinson dropping to 36, this guy is an athletic
I do like him a lot.
Did you see him he takes one dribble without traveling from the opposite three-point line, 70 feet away from the hoop. He can dunk it with one dribble. That's the craziest thing ever. So he's another high home run swing. He could stink.
That's wild.
But he has some incredible measurables, and he could be phenomenal. I think overall.
And then the Wizards.
Wizards bad.
Wizards bad.
All right. Well, I love what the Celtics did. We'll have to see next week how we clear out in the summer league. Hopefully there's some fireworks elsewhere besides the Celtics. I don't really want us to do anything free agency-wise, but we'll see how everything shakes out. Thank you for joining us on My Wheelhouse. Out of here.
See you soon.